pro-life U.S. representatives kick off their first week back in Congress with a hearing on the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act.
Signing the Born Alive Act petition is the simplest choice that any member of Congress can make. The tragedy of infanticide across our country requires serious and effective legal safeguards.
House Minority Whip Steve Scalise, Missouri Representative Ann Wagner, in coordination with the Pro-Life Caucus, held a hearing Tuesday on the Born Alive Act, a bill which would require medical care for babies who survive abortions. The minority hearing included testimonies from pro-life medical experts, including former abortionist turned pro-lifer Dr. Kathy Altman and Jill Stanek, a nurse who witnessed babies left to die. This hearing comes as Congress returns to D.C. following the August recess. In April, Scalise filed a discharge petition for the Born Alive bill. This is a tactic to bypass Democratic leadership, which has already blocked over 80 requests for a vote. And joining us now from Capitol Hill is House Minority Whip Steve Scalise of Louisiana himself. Welcome back to the show.
Catherine, good to be back with you.
You co-chaired this Born Alive hearing. What do you see as the next step here? Your discharge petition on the Born Alive bill has not yet reached the necessary 218 signatures to force a House floor vote on this bill.
And Catherine, that's exactly our objective, is to keep shining light on this issue, letting people know that right now babies who are born alive outside the womb do not have federal protection. And yet most people would recognize that it's murder if you kill that baby. And yet in some states like New York, it's legal and happening. We can't let it happen. And so having this hearing to emphasize that we need to have congressional action, and Speaker Pelosi won't let the bill come to the floor. Like you said, the only method we have right now to get it to the floor is a discharge petition, which means 218 members of Congress need to sign on. And that means if somebody back home asks their member of Congress, have you signed the discharge petition to protect babies who are born alive outside the womb? That's the ultimate test, and our objective is to get that necessary 218 signatures, bring the bill to the floor where it will pass.
As you mentioned, you do need more signatures from Democrats. Do you see any potential for that?
There is potential to get more Democrat signatures because think about this. There are many members of Congress today, Democrat members, who ran saying that they were pro-life and yet haven't signed this discharge petition. So it's hard to go back home and claim you're pro-life when up in Washington, the things that you need to do to actually defend life, and we're talking here about a baby who's born alive outside the womb. If you won't sign that discharge petition, it's real hard to go back home and claim you're pro-life when you're not defending life here in Washington where it matters most.
There are a lot of Americans who don't believe the Born Alive bill is even necessary because they think it is already illegal to allow babies to die. Can you clarify that?
I can absolutely clarify it. In fact, we had testimony from people, a powerful testimony, doctors and nurses who have seen this actually happen, talked about how babies have been born alive as the result of a failed abortion and were killed. And in many states, it's still not considered murder. So they need federal protection. Those babies need federal protection to make it clear that if a baby is born alive outside the womb, even if it's an attempted abortion where the baby was born alive, that baby should get full protection. So people who try to claim it doesn't happen are ignoring the facts. And again, medical doctors came and testified about what's going on out there in the real world and why this bill is so necessary.
And finally, what is your message to your fellow Catholic and fellow member of Congress, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, about this specific bill and the fact she consistently blocks a vote on it?
My message is very clear. Speaker Pelosi should bring the Born Alive bill to the floor today. It would pass overwhelmingly, but she refuses to do it because she doesn't want it to pass. And so our only option right now is to get a discharge petition, meaning 218 members of Congress have to sign on. All those people who say that they're pro-life and have not signed on to this discharge petition need to sign it so that we can actually defend life, not in our talk back home in our districts, but in reality, in the law here in Washington, where those babies don't have protection and deserve to have that full protection.
House Minority Whip Steve Scalise of Louisiana, thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. Great being back with you.
I have learned that babies save us if we will have the courage to consistently save them.
And joining us now is Dr. Robyn Pierucci, an associate scholar at the Charlotte Lozier Institute and a neonatologist who testified at the Born Alive hearing. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You testified at this week's Born Alive hearing. What was your message to the lawmakers?
It really was all about making the babies more human, especially when they're born prematurely. It's easy to call them fetal and other names that obscure. No, they're just real people.
And as a practicing neonatologist, what are the standards of care for premature babies specifically?
Well, the standard of care is to evaluate every individual. You know, just like a cancer patient, not all cancer is the same in all people. The same kind of thing. There's different degrees of prematurity, and different babies are affected differently. So when you evaluate each one, there is a standard resuscitation that we go through, NRP, Neonatal Resuscitation Program. It's a national program, and it gives us the guidelines of how to resuscitate each baby at each individual gestational age.
And is that standard of care the same for babies who survive abortions?
You know, it's one of those moments of I don't know what I don't know. If you never are called to that delivery, you never get to care for them. I suspect no one has ever thought of, well, if their intent was to abort the baby, it's not going to cross their mind that they should have to rescue the baby if they failed in their first attempt.
So as a medical doctor, what is it you want people to know about this Born Alive legislation?
I hope this gives perhaps the nurses who might work at the abortion clinic the strength, because now it would be a law. If the baby is born alive, you have to call for help.
Right, absolutely. And finally, I know in your testimony you had this beautiful line about how it was your line of work that brought you to the life issue and to be pro-life.
Yeah. As a convert to Catholicism, even at the time of my conversion, it was something I still struggled with because I grew up in a household where very good people talked about being pro-abortion. It was all very cerebral. And then I saw these babies and I got to care for them. And like I said, they're real. They're not tissue. They're not sort of maybe people. They're fully human beings with these perfect little souls that look at you.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing your insight with us and for your testimony, Dr. Robyn Pierucci of the Charlotte Lozier Institute. Thank you.
Thanks.